What's up YouTube, this is Hamster, the TechRodent, and today a review of the smaller sibling of a phone I looked at before, the Xiaomi Redmi 1S. With a price tag of 419 ringgit or 129 US dollars, let's take a look at what your money gets you. Powering the phone, a Snapdragon 400 processor with 4 Cortex A7 cores clocked at 1.6 GHz. It should be noted that it has the model number MSM8228 that is higher clocked than the normal 8226. For the GPU, you have a slightly dated Adreno 305 that is clocked at 450 MHz and 1GB of RAM to go with that. Storage wise, the phone comes with 8GB of internal memory, though that is expandable via a microSD slot. Keeping the phone alive is a 2000 mAh battery that you can replace. Unboxing the phone, first up we have the Redmi 1S in its own dedicated box. Below that, the quick start guide. And further below that, the micro USB cable that feels nice and solid. Moving back to the main box, we get the wall charger that is rated at 5 volts and 1 ampere that frankly looks a bit generic. And finally, 2 micro SIM to full size SIM adapters. Looking at the phone's exterior, up the front, a 4.7-inch IPS LCD display pushing a 1280 by 720 resolution. Now, despite being IPS technology, I found that the display really left more to be desired, especially for a device in 2014. There is a noticeable gap between the front glass and the actual display that bothers me quite a bit, and perhaps it's because of this that the viewing angles aren't really that great. While looking at the phone head-on isn't really an issue, I found the display to be highly reflective when viewing outdoors, and contrast levels, especially the blacks, to suffer severely when you start viewing the display at an angle. Below that, the touch capacitive buttons that are colored red, which I suppose is due to the Redmi in name, but in practice I found it hard to see the buttons at times, and it doesn't help that the buttons aren't backlit either. It should be noted as well that the power indicator light for the phone is located right below the home button, which is certainly a weird location. It doesn't help as well that in a dark room you can see the light for the power indicator leak into the LCD display from the bottom. Moving to the top of the display, you'll find the 1.6 megapixel front-facing camera and the earpiece for taking calls. Down the right, the volume rocker and the power button that both have a silver paint job and with quite some decent tactile feedback to them. Top of the phone, the 3.5mm headphone jack. Nothing on the left. And finally, down the bottom, the micro USB port and the primary microphone. Moving to the rear, the secondary microphone, the 8 megapixel camera with LED flash, the speaker grille beside it, and finally below all that, the Mi branding in a chrome finish. It should be noted as well that the back of the phone is removable in order to access the 2 SIM slots, the micro SD slot, and the battery. Xiaomi gives you the option of changing the back cover for other colors as well, other than the plain metallic grey back. Starting the phone up, you're greeted with the Mi logo together with a boot animation that mainly consists of the logo changing color from white to orange. It took 28 seconds for the phone to hit the lock screen. As with all versions of MIUI up to V5, holding on the center of the ring then swiping upwards unlocks to the camera, left to the dialer, right to messaging, and finally bottom to unlock the phone. No app drawers here, so all applications can be found on the home screen a la Apple. Getting around the phone is pretty much lag-free, though the phone does occasionally take longer to load some things, and perhaps this is just due to the 1GB of RAM limitation. At time of review, the Redmi 1S is running version 43 of its software, and that is based off Android 4.3 Jelly Bean. Xiaomi does have plans of moving the phone over to KitKat, so no worries there. Apart from MIUI default applications, the phone does come with standard Google applications as well, like the Play Store, Maps, Chrome, and YouTube. The only 2 non-standard installed applications then are Facebook and Kingsoft Office. Other than that, the phone is pretty light as far as pre-installed applications go. Running Antutu Benchmark version 5.1, I got a score of 16,636, and running 3D Mark's benchmark, I got a score of 5,543 for iStorm, 2,815 for iStorm Extreme, and 4,593 for iStorm Unlimited. In Unreal's Epic Citadel, I got an average of 52 FPS under high quality and 27.2 FPS under ultra high quality. Finally, testing the phone using GFX Bench, I got a score of 582 or 10.4 FPS in T-Rex and 321 or 5.7 FPS in T-Rex offscreen. I guess provided your games aren't too taxing, you probably won't have too much problems gaming on this device. You might want to hold off on installing a lot of HD games though. Firing up the camera, the first thing I looked for was the similar amount of unlock controls that I found on the Mi 3, though unfortunately I wasn't able to find any. Swapping over to advanced mode, you still don't have access to manually control the shutter speed or the white balance, and in all honesty, I find that quite disappointing. Still, the camera performed quite admirably even then, and here are some sample photos that I took with this phone. I found that the camera had the tendency to make photos a little colder than they're supposed to be, and not only that, most of the times photos came out just a little bit underexposed. Turning on HDR does help in some circumstances, but in some situations, it makes the photos overexposed instead. If you're able to balance both of that out, then photos can look pretty good with decent sharpness and dynamic range. Noise levels are controlled really well, but bokeh really isn't the prettiest and pretty much only exists in macro shots. Using the flash in low light situations, photos look to be a lot more warmer, though the flash isn't really made for shooting subjects at a close range, as it overexposes the subject while underexposing the background. For the most part, it helps though. However, if you don't need to use the flash, HDR works quite well at low light photography and night shots. That's another thing that I'd like to point out as well. I got better results at night photography using the HDR mode than I did using the handheld twilight mode, which I found very strange indeed. In fact, handheld twilight looks almost the same as setting the camera on auto, so I'm not too sure what's going on here. Video recording isn't too bad, though I did find the audio to be just a little bit empty, and the video to be not really that sharp. Hey guys, this is a 1080p recording test on the Xiaomi Redmi 1S. Battery life on this device is a bit of a mixed bag, as I found that it lasted 8 days and 8 hours on pure standby. But once I started running the non-stop video playback benchmark, the phone only lasted 4 hours and 36 minutes, the lowest in the group. That gives the Redmi 1S a battery life score of 1 day and 15 hours of light usage. To close off this review, I have to say that I would be lying if the Redmi 1S didn't have to fill some pretty big shoes. Seeing as I really loved the Mi 3, I went into the Redmi 1S with high expectations, but I feel that they've more than fallen short of this. But again, perhaps I'm expecting too much of a device at the $129 USD price point. I'll be objective though, and say that I wasn't too happy with the display of the phone, together with the design choices in the touch capacitive buttons and the power indicator. Apart from that, I found the bezels to be quite thick, the back cover to feel a little bit cheap, the design to be boring and uninspired, the phone to heat up quickly at times, and the battery life to leave a lot more to be desired. After all that though, I'm reminded of its asking price, and perhaps I am being a bit harsh on this phone. Still, if you do decide to get it, bear in mind that some compromises had to be made to price this phone as it is. Overall, I give the Xiaomi Redmi 1S a 7.5 out of 10, mostly due to the price. For the more in-depth review, check out the links around the video and in the description to read my full write-up about the device. If you found this review helpful, please like, rate, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching guys and have a nice day.